All right.
She's a very joyful person.
She is, yeah, she's a very dynamic speaker.
She's better than that other broad was. That other broad was a dud.
Okay.
Not as lively.
I'm not sure who you're talking about, but it's okay. All right, so. Oh, where's my. Kindness, right? Generosity. What additional kindnesses does Boaz extend to Ruth? Specifically 14 to 16. What does the amount of barley Ruth gathered say about Boaz's generosity? How is Boaz generous? In what ways does he show kindness? Fed her lunch, right? And again, going back to, she really, culturally, she should have been shunned. Culturally, she was like, oh, we don't want anything to do with you. But he invites her in for lunch, yeah. What else?
Gives her extra.
Gives her extra, right? He says to the men, just, just kind of drop some, and she can harvest among the ones that are standing, right? So they're going through these barley and they're cutting them down, right? And they're allowing her to just go along the stuff that they haven't even cut yet, right? The best stuff.
Then he speaks to the men workers, said, basically whatever she wants.
Yeah. Don't mess with her, and in fact give her more,
and
right?
If you spill a little extra, that's okay too.
In fact, do spill a little extra,
yeah,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He also connects her with the women who are working there with him.
Yeah.
So she's, she goes into that field a foreigner and a widow, and she has no friends. She's new to this area, and he connects her to these women and says, "Hey, get with these." Anything else? She also mentioned, Bianca also mentioned that Boaz served her, right? Which again is different to what is expected. She, as kind of the lowest status person, would have been the person they just kind of go, you can come to lunch, you're going to be serving, but he served her. So what are some of the gifts or blessings God has given you? How do you use your gifts to bless others? What does that look like, practically speaking?
When I first came to this church, I experienced being taken into the circle of women, being included very quickly. And that was a great thing.
Yeah. That is such a blessing, that sort of bringing into a community. It's a good segue to the next question as you're kind of thinking rhetorically about the other one. How have people used their blessings to bless you? How did their generosity make you feel? Right? To be accepted. That is really, that means something. How have others blessed you? Some suggestion.
Use the phrase taking us under their wings, sort of like Boaz.
Yeah.
Whether it's as you've gone to different work situations, introduce you to people.
Right.
And
make those networks.
At some point, in effect, you'll like them, but you also will glean, I'll use that word again, glean stuff from them that'll help you at some point maybe in the future.
Right.
I think we're all blessed because we realize other people are praying for us. And that's a great thing to know.
Absolutely. Yeah. It really is. Ruth 2:20. Let me read that real quick to remind us. Then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be he by the Lord, whose kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead." Naomi also said to her, "The man is a relative of ours, one of our nearest kin." So how has Boaz demonstrated hesed, or blessedness, steadfast loving kindness, to Ruth and Naomi? Some of the things we said before, but also some others. Right. He's accepted them. I like that.
He's sort of taking care of them.
Taking care of them. Right. He's actually, in some ways, serving as kind of that redeemer that we'll be talking about in a little bit, before he's officially the redeemer.
I was thinking about that too, but he followed through on what he was to do as a close relative and that sort of thing. And I was just thinking about, what's that, Louisiana word, lagniappe? He got a little, but meaning he took care of her, but she was also a very pretty, humble lady who had gone with her mother-in-law after her husband, and her husband and her father-in-law both had passed away. And then he comes in and he said that, I'm sure the guys in the field, he probably had said,
Right.
watch where your eyes are going, make sure you're in that. And so he protected it. And yet he, as we'll know later on in the story.
Right. Spoilers, right?
Did he know that he was a relative of his when she first?
Yes, because remember, he comes into the field and says, "Who's that girl there?" And they said, "Well, she's Ruth. She's from Moabite, or Moab. She is the daughter-in-law of Naomi." So he knows kind of who she is. Yeah.
What kind of relative?
It's not exactly clear, but he is a
Cousin?
probably cousin, something like that. Yeah.
It says close relative.
Close relative, yeah. And part of that is this idea of kind of kinsman and redeemer, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. Why does Naomi pray to God to bless Boaz in this verse?
She would be grateful to him for
Right.
protecting and providing for them.
She's grateful, and so what she can do in response is, well, he's blessed us. God bless him, right? As I can't pay him back, but you can. But you notice that her attitude towards God has changed remarkably. What does it look like for you to pray blessing for others? What can you pray for specifically?
Health, wellness.
Health, wellness, yeah. I tend to pray for wisdom and courage, because those are always helpful. Right?
And safety when someone's traveling.
Safety in travel, right?
I think about this cold weather we've had lately, and I saw a sign up in front of one of the churches that said this is a warm place, come in.
Right.
I thought, what a wonderful blessing they are to the people who needed the warm place to spend the night.
Right. How can we, those kind of very physical ways of blessing. Yeah. You think of whoever it is, I don't remember his name, the pyramid of self-actualization, I don't know. Maslow, there you go. Yeah. Where there's certain things that if certain needs are not met, if you're hungry and if you don't have a place to stay, you can't get up to that next sort of like spiritual care type stuff. There's certain things that kind of have to be that foundation.
What was the word you said?
Maslow.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Thank you. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Where you learn something or relearn something.
One of them way at the top is what, self-actualization or something. One of those little
at the very top is self-actualization.
That don't count much when you're hungry and
you have to do all
until you meet that need.
Yeah, you can't do the next thing. Is it easy for you to see the purpose of the blessings in your life?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, right? Sometimes maybe not as much. When have you lost sight of God's purpose for your possessions, position, or occupation?
When everything appears to be going wrong.
Right. When your needs aren't being met, or at least they're perceived to, right? If you're worried, how am I going to put food on the table, then you're not as interested necessarily about how can I be a blessing to others. That scarcity, that idea of scarcity. And I shared last time that the Princeton Theological Study where the students who thought they didn't have any time didn't stop and help, but those who thought that they had plenty of time did. You know, that our understanding of what do I have and what's, you know, if we feel like we're in a hurry, then we're just that less likely to stop.
Sometimes you find your blessing best when you look back.
Right. And it's one of those things that's a hindsight sort of thing. You look back and you go, oh my goodness, God has blessed me in that.
I heard something recently about the number of times we block God's blessings by our response to his goodness or our bitterness, like Marilyn had.
Right.
She didn't stay in that state, but if she had, I wonder what the story would have been.
Sure. Right. And, you know, when she comes into town, people are, oh, Naomi, you're here. And she said, you know, don't welcome me. Go away. God has been...
Call me
right.
whatever her name was.
Marar. Yeah. What are some examples of people in the Bible who put their blessings before God? How did their actions affect their relationship with God and others?
I'm thinking about the birthright story and how
Jacob and Esau, right?
And how, what's the mother's name?
Is
Her.
that Rebecca?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's it. She took.
Or no, that's.
She took.
Yeah. Rebecca.
Matters into her own hand and put her own needs ahead of God's purposes.
Right. Right. She manipulated the thing and said, Jacob, go get the blessing, right? Yeah. When I was going through this, I read it a completely different way. So carry on, and then I'll tell you what the answer I have, because I read it the opposite way.
Well, when Jonah headed the other way.
Right. Jonah's a great example, too.
Yeah.
God says, go to Nineveh, that great city, and speak against it. He goes, I'm going to go as far the opposite direction as I possibly can. Right? Now, I read it, put their blessings before God. And so I was thinking of Abraham, Isaac, the binding of Isaac. How he has this blessing and he goes, okay, God, if you want this, I'm just going to lay it here literally on the altar. What are some ways we can fight to keep our focus on God and not on the blessings he gives us? Instead of looking at how can God bless me? How can God give me stuff? How do we focus on God, right? Spend more time with him, right? Yeah. Pray for guidance. Yeah.
I read something somewhere. If you're having a discussion with someone that you really don't like, you really, really don't like it, that instead of focusing your attention on the conversation and what you can get in to make your point, you focus on, just in your head, you say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, over and over and over again. Focus on God loving that person through you and how it changes the way you phrase things.
Interesting. I like that.
I thought it was interesting.
That's a very good one. So good, I totally forgot what I was going to say.
I'm here to help.
Yeah, and if we're disconnected to God, this was off of what Judy was saying, where spend time with God when you're not asking for stuff, right? And that's sometimes that's hard for us to do, right? We only reach out to God sometimes, not most of us, but sometimes there are times in our lives where we just reach out to God when we need something.
You need to reach out to him every day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And then when you get what you wanted, when you ask for it, you thank so
And then
much.
it's thank you, right? Yeah. Yeah, because we also do the, oh God, help me do this. And then we do it, and then we go, oh good, I did that.
Check that
Right?
off.
Yeah, right. Pray.
I asked him to make me a better person, but it ain't working too good.
Well, we also have a hand in some of this stuff as well. Also, if we are focusing on how our blessings can bless others, how do we bless others? I think that's then it's not about, oh God, give me this. It's about, oh, I have this. I can help you out with this, right? It's a very different thing. Who are the living and the dead that Naomi refers to in verse 20? And again, it's been a little while. So at the end, she says, "Blessed be he by the Lord, whose kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead." How has Boaz's generosity also honored Elimelech, Mahlon, and Chilion?
Because they're not there to take care of Ruth and Naomi.
Right, he's stepping in their place. They're not there to do it. And actually, this is a big thing about the whole idea of kinsman redeemer, is that literally you are stepping into that place on their behalf. So, like, one of the kind of ideas of this kinsman redeemer is, and it comes up a couple times in some Bible stories, where if a man marries a woman, they don't have a child, and he dies, his brother, his familial responsibility, and then extends out further and further, is to marry that woman, have a child, specifically a son, through her, and that child is going to be the son of the original husband, as far as the law goes. What?
Is that right?
That is right, right. Because without a child in that day, she has no one to take care of her, right? There's no one she doesn't have a husband because he's dead, right? And no children to take care of her. So, that's the idea of the law, is she needs a child and she needs a husband. So he actually steps in, and that first son is going to, for all intents and purposes, be the son of his brother. That's the idea, right? And it goes further out, and it'll come up when we talk about the other potential kinsman redeemer and what that means. But that was the kind of idea that family name would be carried on. So the son of Ruth and Boaz, in theory, would be, he's the son of Elimelech, the son of Mahlon or Chilion, whichever one married Ruth, and we don't know. It doesn't really matter. Because Boaz is so good that when the genealogies go down, it's just son of Boaz. But that's the idea. How does Naomi describe Boaz to Ruth in verse 20? Again, we're on verse 20.
He's a good guy, and besides that, he's kin to us.
Right. He's kin to us. He's family. He's a good man. He's wonderful. He's blessed, but he's also this kinsman redeemer, or this close kinsman to us. Who in the story needs to be redeemed? Ruth does, right? Naomi also needs to be redeemed as well, because she's also a widow. And part of the issue is, technically, legally, they're living in a house on family land that doesn't really belong to them, because it's not like You die, and all of a sudden your wife gets that deed. That's not how it works. This land is probably just sat for 10 years. I don't know. People, I guess, forgot about it. But technically, I mean, nobody's going to argue that much, but technically they're not really allowed to live there. So yeah, she needs to be redeemed as well. In what sense does Boaz already improve? In what sense has Boaz already improved the situation of the two widows?
Fed 'em.
He's fed them, right? They were hungry, now they're not, right? Fed them today. Ruth gets lunch. She eats as much as she wants, and she carries a bunch home. And then she's also carrying 30 to 60 pounds of barley just for that day, right?
Got some mustard.
Yes, she does, right? Well, and that was after working. She got there at 6, didn't take a break until Boaz got there, and then had lunch, and then worked all the way until evening. And then she carried that ephah of grain home. Yeah, so she was not a fragile, yeah.
Lily on the vine.
Right. What characteristics of Christ has Boaz demonstrated so far in the narrative?
You saw me
Servants.
hungry and I fed you.
Right? Redeemer. Yeah. Kindness. Anything else? This is the one that I thought of. Just because we're in John, and God's hit me over the head with this one. Where is it? Okay, I'm not going to read it directly because my brain is just not funny right now. But how much grace does Christ give us? Yeah, it's grace upon grace. Grace over and above the grace that we need, right? God says, or Christ says, you have been redeemed. You've been justified. Slate has been wiped clean. But that's not where he stops. He says, I'm also going to give you the grace to be children of God. I'm going to give you the grace of sanctification, the getting better. Right? Boaz, by law, yes, he's supposed to allow Ruth in, but he gives more, and he gives more, and he gives more. And when it seems just crazy, he gives some more, right? Pretty cool. Which of these characteristics stands out to you the most? What are the ones that you said? Kindness, right? Just genuine kindness.
Protecting and
Yeah, protection, provision,
Acceptance.
redemption. In what ways has that attribute of Christ impacted your walk with him? I'll stew over that, but if you want to share, you can. How have you experienced Christ's protection and provision in your life? How did you feel when God graciously provided for you and or protected you?
He protected me a lot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Very gracious that he was there. I remember one incident in particular, I remember was sitting on the side of the interstate working a wreck, and hearing a noise behind me, and an 18-wheeler's coming sideways down the side of the road toward my car. oh no, and it went off the side of the road before it got to me. And I crashed through a couple of tow trucks that were already there, and I had just been back talking to the guys working on the tow trucks. I went back there expecting the worst, and none of them got touched.
Wow.
What was guardian angels?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. For more about guardian angels, join us on Sunday morning. What came to my mind was right after I graduated from Princeton, I had a heck of a time with ordination exams, which are these just terrible, ridiculous exams that any minister has to go through, and it's to the point now where we had to do it, so everybody else has to do it. That's right. But anyways, had some struggles with that, so I wasn't necessarily ready to receive call. And the church that I'd been an intern at said, okay, how's it going? Yeah, well, I'm looking, and this is going on. They said, well, how about this? Why don't you stick around for the summer, and you can do the youth program, and you can live in the house next to the church. Okay, right? Like just providence.
Out of the blue.
Just yeah, and just incredibly gracious. Just very, very gracious. What does it mean to you that Jesus has all the qualities that we talked about and more? Right? Because it's not just that one thing. It's not just the kindness. It's not just the redemption. It's not just the grace. It's all of those and more, right? It's all of those great qualities that make Boaz who he is, that strong, rawry man, right? But it's even more. It's humbling.
Makes you want to be his friend, doesn't it?
Yeah. Spend a little bit more time, right? And a model to follow, right? Something to look up to and work towards, right? That sanctification, we're becoming more and more like Christ. And that means that we're becoming more and more kind. And we're seeking redemption for others and to provide and all those sorts of things, right? We take on those. We're learning to do those qualities. Which of the characteristics of Christ that we listed could you focus on this week? What would it look like to live out that attribute at work, home, school, church, or in your neighborhood? Again, that can be rhetorical. I'll let you stew on that for a little bit. But if you want to share, you can.
That's one of them we learned in kindergarten. Be ye kind one to another.
Right.
That just hit me. We just try to be kind.
Just be kind, right. And what would that look like to be kind?
Take time to listen to them.
Even if you hate them. Right.
Well, that doesn't count.
Except your wife.
Spouses are included.
Yeah. I didn't realize it until I was at the retirement center that sometimes taking 5 minutes to listen, and that's hard for me. I talk. But stop and listen and let them tell you something. It may be the 17th time you've heard it. But the other thing, you may be the only person that took time to just sit and listen, even if it's just 5 minutes. Or the only person that speaks to them. Nobody said anything to them in 4 days.
Right.
It's just those are the kind of things you don't realize you're doing it until they say, "Thank you so. I was so kind to me." Oh.
Russell was so good in that job, he would get down on his knees to talk to the residents because they were in wheelchairs, most of them, and were very limited in what they could speak in terms of the conversation. But Russell was always on his knees when he was communicating.
Right, and getting on the same level as somebody is really, that's a big thing with children as well, just to kind of get down on that level. Any other character?
And also you have to be aware of your surroundings and open to what you're seeing.
Right.
What is a need?
Open to what
It's
you...
just tunnel vision when we go about our daily life.
Right. Again, how many blessings do we miss because we're busy or we're just not open? So live it out. Here's some things that we can do. Pray. Pray for someone who has been a true blessing to you. Ask them what their specific requests are for the week and pray for those requests each day. Right? Think of Naomi. She says, he's such a blessing. God, bring blessings on him. Bless. Use your resources to bless someone else this week. And resources could be anything, right? Give rent money to a friend looking for a job. Offer to babysit your pastor's kids. That's in. I didn't put that in. I'm just reading that.
Yeah.
Or take an afternoon to talk with someone in a nursing home. Wow, providential, right? Not 5 minutes. It's probably not going to be 5 minutes. I don't know.
No,
I'm just bad at exiting those conversations, but it's never 5 minutes. But yeah,
That's right.
but it means so much. Study. Spend time this week in one of the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, in case you forgot what they were. List out the characteristics you observe about Jesus. Ask God to broaden your understanding of Jesus' character. I am always surprised when I read through a new gospel. Yeah, I don't know why, but there's always those stories that I just breeze over or whatever, and you just go and you go, he turned water into wine, and that sort of thing. You just, even if you've heard it 100 times, you can still be kind of blown away. This is who Jesus is. It's not the picture that I have constructed in my brain. This is who he is. There's more to it than that. Worship. One of the themes in the book of Ruth is this idea of blessing. Creatively worship God for how he's blessed you this week, whether through song, art, or another creative form. Praise him for all he's done for you. And hope. The book of Ruth is seasoned with hope. Write down the things you hope for this week. Surrender those hopes to God. Pray he would empower you to put your hope in him. Just some things to think going forward. Also, remember, go ahead and read through chapter 3. We'll be going through it in the next several sessions, but there's some twists and turns, and there's some plot devices and stuff. It's good. Let's close in prayer. Lord God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for the blessings, the many, many, many blessings that you've given us, especially those ones that we have taken for granted. God, help us to be blessings to one another, to seek hesed for one another. Lord God, you are more good to us than we really know. You give us grace, and then you give more grace. And then, you know what? You give some more. Help us to grasp hold of your grace, to pour out your blessings, to be transformed every day into your image. We pray these things in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.